evening to you. Thank you for tuning in to Newswatch on Hope TV. My name is Tiffany Wamboy. Our sign language interpreter is Boniface Muridi. Now, President William Ruto has today presided over the groundbreaking of the Shauri Moyo housing project, marking his fourth such launch. The 10 billion shilling project seeks to provide more than 3,000 housing units as part of the government's agenda on the provision of affordable housing for Kenyans. The head of state has so far commissioned housing projects in Mavoko constituency in Machakos County, Ruiru in Kiambu County, and Mukuru Met site and Soweto B in Kibra. The launch follows President Ruto's visit to France and Senegal.
How are you, my friend? Very good.
Your Excellency, we want to thank you because this is not the first time, this is not the second time that you've been in Nairobi with this program of affordable housing. Housing gives people dignity. Housing makes them feel hata hao kweli ni binadamu sawa sawa. Asante kwa kukumbuka mahasla wa Nairobi ambao pia wanahitaji makao. Isiwe ati tumezoea lazima ukiishi mahali Nairobi kama hauna pesa, uishi mahali ambapo hakuna choo, mahali hakuna stima, mahali hakuna maji. Hata mwananchi wa kawaida wa Nairobi anahitaji nyumba ambayo inampatia heshima na hadhi ambayo ako nayo. Thank you so much for this program, Your Excellency.
Matters affordable housing are exciting to all of us. One, because of the aim and the objective of restoring the dignity of our people, but most importantly, for creating job opportunities. Umesikia hapa tuko na shida ya kibarua, si ndio? Kwa hivyo huu mradi utasaidia sana vijana wetu, na hata juu ya vijana hata wamama wapate kazi kwa hii mradi. Na kwa hivyo tunamuuliza kwa heshima contractor, kwa hii mradi usitoe wafanyikazi nje hapa. Wacha tu watu wakule hapa karibu wasaidike.
Tuliwaambia kila mwaka for the next 5 years, kila mwaka tutajenga minimum nyumba 1,200 Kenya. Ili kwa muda wa miaka 5 tujenge nyumba 1,000,000. Mimi nafurahi ya kwamba hiyo safari tumeianzisha tayari. Tumepanga karibu ekari 4,000 katika miji tofauti tofauti. Tunafanya kazi na counties ambao tayari wameungana na sisi, counties 39 ambao wako tayari na wako katika hii mpango wa affordable housing, kwa sababu tunataka kupatia kila Mkenya nafasi ya kuishi mahali ambapo panafaa, mahali nyumba ambayo iko na stima, iko na maji, iko na choo, iko na barabara, iko na shule na iko na soko karibu. Mimi nataka muelewe hivi, kazi hii ya affordable housing munaona tunaikaza kabisa kwa sababu tunajua itatusaidia mambo matatu ya muhimu. Jambo la kwanza, itatupatia makao. Hapa Nairobi wa Kenya zaidi ya 2,000,000 wanaishi katika slum informal settlements. Hawa wa Kenya wote wanaishi mahali ambapo hakuna barabara sawa sawa, hakuna maji, hakuna choo, hakuna stima, na ndio tunasema hapa Nairobi awamu yetu ya kwanza ya mambo ya affordable housing ndio tumeweka msingi na tumeweka mkazo mkubwa katika mji wetu wa Nairobi.
Let us appreciate His Excellency with a round of applause. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, makofi mazuri.
And as Kenya marks the International Data Privacy Day, President William Ruto launched a data protection registration system at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, that is KICC grounds. The event was graced by various high-profile officials, including Germany's Deputy Ambassador to Kenya, Thomas Wimmer, ICT and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo, Nairobi Deputy Governor James Njoroge Mushiri, and Commissioner of the Kenya Data Protection Protection Authority Immaculate Kasait. Speaking during the launch, President Ruto affirmed the government's commitment to collaborating with various stakeholders to expand the creativity and innovation through the promotion of freedom of expression. At the same time, Ambassador Wima acknowledged Kenya as a hub for digital movement and transformation, one which Germany could draw best practices from.
The Kenya Kwanza government, under the stewardship of His Excellency the President, has got a very, very ambitious digital transformation strategy. That strategy, ladies and gentlemen, entails the digital superhighway as a thematic area in the Kenya Kwanza plan. And to operationalize that, we are embarking on an ambitious program of rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable to enhance the ICT infrastructure in all parts of the country. We are establishing and operationalizing 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots all over the country, and also in the same vein, setting up a total of 1,450 digital hubs in all the wards in the country, ladies and gentlemen.
When the first such day was marked over 4 decades ago, Kenya had not plugged into the information technology data universe that was just taking off then. Today, we have not only caught up with the most advanced jurisdictions, we are poised to seize leadership in innovative domains that are destined to define the digital future and the knowledge economy. Like the rest of the world, we are in the grip of the 4th industrial revolution that is underway, which has radically changed our world and our lives within a very short time. Cumulative technological developments now happening over the span of a few years routinely outstrip by far the radical transformations and historic progress achieved over centuries in what has been documented as the Industrial Revolution. Life, work, society, and government are all undergoing unprecedented forms and rates of change owing to connectivity, automation, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and robotics. As a result, all sorts of new possibilities emerge every day, whilst traditional definitions of work and leisure are being challenged and redefined on a continuous basis.
And in other news, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu has officially flagged off the national distribution exercise of grade 7 textbooks, marking the launch of learning at junior secondary schools. The CS announced that the ministry has launched 17,893,270 copies of learners' books and 423,514 copies of teachers' guides for grade 7. And as Grace Ahatina reports, each of the grade 7 learners in public schools will be issued a textbook in all learning areas and optional subjects.
As the pioneer CBC learners are set to report to their respective schools on Monday to commence their junior secondary school education, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu has launched the national distribution exercise of grade 7 textbooks to ensure learners have learning materials. Speaking during the event at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Machogu said the distribution that will cost the government over 3 billion shillings comes after the assessment of primary schools to assess their readiness for junior secondary school. He highlighted that over 20,000 primary schools have received the approval to host junior secondary schools, however noting that some schools did not meet the threshold.
The number of primary schools which will be hosting junior secondary schools, according to our assessment, are now over 20,000, and we will be giving you the specific number, and those who have not qualified are actually very few, because our major criteria was on the enrollment, the numbers that we have as they transition, and there are others few that will serve as feeder schools to those that will be offering junior secondary school.
The CS noted that the Ministry of Education has consistently distributed CBC books to learners in line with its policy of achieving one book per learner to ensure quality teaching and learning, further urging parents of grade 7 learners to ensure that their children report to school on Monday.
I must emphasize that the Ministry of Education has consistently distributed CBC textbooks for learners in the grade 1 to 6 annually to ensure the policy of one book for one learner in every subject is met. The Ministry is determined to sustain this tradition of effective and efficient textbook tradition to all our junior and senior secondary school leavers as we seek to ensure quality teaching and learning that allows all our learners to complete their basic education as provided for in our Constitution.
Mashogu said that the government is giving capitation of 15,000 per student in junior secondary school and appealed to members of parliament to prioritize using the CDF funds to build laboratories in each school.
I was here and I made an assurance that the government is giving capitation of 15,000 per student for junior secondary, so that makes it not like primary, because the amount that you give for primary is 1,420. This one, because the content is actual secondary, we are giving 15,000. And as schools open, the government has been able to avail over 9 billion, which is going to the various primary schools. And out of that, we said 25% of that money will be used for infrastructural development.
Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Grace Ahati.
Thank you, Grace, for that report. Now, the Media Council of Kenya is set to recall all accreditation cards in a bid to contain fraudsters posing as journalists. The council now says it will issue new press cards with additional features that will make it easy to authenticate the card using any smartphone. Accreditation helps journalists to access information by allowing participation in conferences, workshops, trainings, and other gatherings. It also helps the protection of the rights and privileges of journalists in performing their duties. The MCK met with several stakeholders on Friday to formulate strategies to counter the rise of fraudsters posing as journalists. Alice Diana tells us more.
Following the escalation of fraudsters masquerading as journalists and media practitioners who get access to events to extort and harass people, the Media Council of Kenya, MCK, has announced that it will recall all media accreditation cards to contain fraudsters.
For us to be able to verify whether this
MCK's announcement came after the council held a meeting with media industry stakeholders on Friday, where they deliberated and agreed on practical measures to enhance professionalism and to deal with the rising cases of fraudsters posing as journalists.
The groups that invite media to events, and we're going to be embedding them with PRSK members largely. We know you need to show that you have worked and then you invite people. Please don't just invite people so that you please your host.
I think this one we can do in Nairobi very quickly, as we also then mobilize our regional coordinators in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, to have, in a day you can meet 10 hotel owners. I mean, these are hotels where we do meetings every day. So that then we see how the issue of the Macharia guy that was mentioning about outreach and empowering sources also not to become prey easily to the number of cameras instead of the quality of the work that's being done. So I think this will be quick things that will be done.
The fraudsters will often reveal these fake IDs when covering events, often without raising eyebrows, until they are insensitive news events. Most will falsely identify themselves with other media houses and get away with it until a hawk-eyed security agent inquires further. While highlighting the issue, local online publication The Times said, and I quote, "Whenever there is a press conference in town, they are fond of storming the venue of the conference, pretend to be writing notes, and immediately after the press conference, they will follow the newsmakers and demand for money. They have perfected the extortion trade in functions to an extent they have the audacity to tell the organizers of press conferences and media functions that it is their right to be facilitated after every press conference. We are yet to establish where in journalism school was that taught." It goes on to explain that They work in groups of 5 to 10. Whenever they identify their target for extortion, mostly politicians, cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, any high-ranking government officials or any leader and many more, they walk to the target, introduce themselves that they are from leading media houses in town, lie that they will publish the story on the front pages of the dailies the following day, demand for cash, failure to which they threaten not to publish the story. After receiving the cash, they disappear from the venue and hop to the next function to continue with their uncouth behavior in town. The online publication is warning that the said quacks have become bolder by day and will get physical at slightest provocation. Many at times they have literally scrambled for gift hampers at many functions to the amazement of event organizers who many think that bona fide journalists behave as such, but they know some boundaries. They are not stupid to walk to some functions where they know they will be kicked out or arrested.
Do get accreditation after.
While the Media Council did not reveal the extent of the damage caused by the masqueraders, the council revealed that it will now issue new cards that have additional security features, including a barcode and QR code that can be scanned using any smartphone.
We are going to be cancelling and recalling all MCK cards in the market. We will issue new ones with a new design and new security features, including a QR code and a barcode.
The following cadre of people, according to MCK, are eligible for accreditation: journalists working in media enterprises, freelance journalists, foreign journalists, students pursuing media journalism and communication studies, public relations practitioners, advertising companies, and media trainers.
Accreditation must support that we support the regulations and policies for streamlining the industry. That is what we have been championing for all along, that the industry needs to be streamlined.
All journalists seeking accreditation by the MCK are required to provide a letter from the employer, an original degree or diploma certificate in communication from a recognized institution. Meanwhile, players in the media industry say MCK should, in addition, run awareness campaigns to educate news sources who include politicians, corporates, churches, government departments, development agencies, PR agencies, and the public that journalists are not paid to cover events.
We can empower the journalists who are covering.
Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Alice Diana.
We take a short breather here on Newswatch. We'll be looking into the details of a Supreme Court ruling that allows divorcees to live without entitlement to their spouse's property. Stay tuned.
The Rough goes live. This Saturday, watch the first group of graduates from the Diamond Academy take on the stage before a live audience. The singers, dancers, and spoken word artists must bring their A game, as only a select few can proceed on to the next round. Who will it be? Tune in only on Hope TV this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. to find out. The Rough. Identifying talent, inspiring passion.
Thank you for staying tuned to Newswatch. Now, when a couple decides to divorce, each partner will now leave the marriage with a property equivalent to their individual contribution in the union. This is the ruling of the Supreme Court of Kenya. This effectively means that spouses are not automatically entitled to half of matrimonial property upon the split. Here are the details of the ruling made by a 5-judge bench that will henceforth act as the guidelines for distribution of matrimonial property between divorced spouses. Melissa Odor with details of that ruling.
The ruling was made in response to a petition at the Supreme Court from a divorce dispute between Joseph Ombogi Ogentoto and his ex-wife Martha Bosibori, settling one of the contentious issues in the country's family law. Ogentoto took the matter to the Supreme Court after the Court of Appeal ordered that the Embakasi house in which he had lived with his ex-wife of 18 years and the rental units be equally shared between them on a 50-50 ratio. Whilst acknowledging the provision of the law on equitable share of matrimonial property rights, the 5-judge bench stated that divorced spouses can only lay claim on the property they brought into the marriage. The bench, led by Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, also held that each partner in marriage must prove his or her contribution to the family wealth to enable a court to determine the percentage available to him or her at distribution of the matrimonial property. Now, in its ruling, the appellate court had stated that the divorced wife was to receive 30% of the residential house and 20% of a rental property in Embakasi. However, the aggrieved complainant argued that the wife did not have any monetary contribution towards the property in question, hence did not warrant an absolute 50% share. Henceforth, spouses will have to prove their contribution to the matrimonial property amassed, as opposed to the assumption that one is entitled to a 50% share. To that effect, spouses will only leave with the property they helped raise after the dissolution of their union. The court said that the test to determine the extent of contribution of a party is one of a case-to-case basis. Now, the decision today is expected to give shape to legal squabbles between ex-husbands and ex-wives on splitting of wealth after the collapse of their marriages. The Law Society of Kenya, LSK, and the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, were enjoined in the case. For Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Melissa Oduor.
Thank you, Melissa, for that report. Now, a primary school teacher has today been arraigned in a Narok court with charges of defiling a 14-year-old pupil and later supplying drugs to procure an abortion for her. Douglas Juma, a teacher at the Legacy School, is alleged to have defiled the girl who is his pupil on separate occasions between February 20th, 2022 and December 22nd, 2022 at the school compound. Juma was also charged with a second count of supplying drugs to procure an abortion to the same girl during the same period. He appeared before Narok resident magistrate Daniel Gayo, where he pleaded not guilty.
Considered objections by the prosecution for the accused person and the reply by the accused person, noting the circumstances under which it is alleged that the offence herein was committed, and of the view that it would be prudent to suspend the issue of bond at this time and to await the evidence of the victim to be secured. So, however, the hearing of this case will be given priority for purposes of taking the evidence of the victim. So the accused will remain in custody in the meantime until the evidence of the said victim has been taken. So the statements and documents to be supplied to the accused person today taken here.
And elsewhere, the Christ is the Answer Ministries, that is CITAM, in partnership with Teach to Transform, has conducted a first aid training among missionaries in Marsabit, together with some residents, to help them administer basic first aid and maintain hygiene among the marginalized groups, where there are a few hospitals and most of them miles away from some people. The training aimed at equipping them with first aid skills at the same time as ministry outreach approach to attend the spiritual matters of the residents. Faith Imani Mugo tells us more.
The harsh situation in Marsabit County, leading to maternal deaths, malnutrition and other ailments, has been worsened by reduced access to food in the market and the decline in trade as prices of groceries have shot up by 25 to 50%. This lack of food has led to families sharing the nutrition supplements given to malnutritioned children. While maternal mortality rate in Kenya stood at 188 out of 100,000, in Marsabit County alone, it is 820 out of 100,000, which is 2 times the national average. It is for this reason that over 200 persons in Marsabit underwent training dubbed Teach to Transform training in matters hygiene and first aid care. The training brought together participants from all 6 CITAM Northern Frontier mission stations with an aim of equipping them with medical skills they can use and at the same time share the gospel of Jesus Christ.
This week we have been in Marsabit training a group of missionaries, equipping them with some medical skills that they can use to share the gospel with. And those modules include health and hygiene, wound care, burn care, vital signs, and newborn care follow-up. We also do skits, plays and demonstrations just to help them understand these modules better. And we thank God for the opportunity to work with them.
CITAM Head of Missions, Reverend Elias Kiduka, and the Head of Social Action and Advocacy in CITAM, Reverend Anton McKenna, joined the teams, with CITAM providing the kits needed for training the missionaries and the locals. CITAM Missions Office facilitated the 3 days training and also supported the missionaries in the area with backpacks equipped with an infrared thermometer, stethoscope, blood pressure machine, and pulse oximeter, gloves, and wood care pack.
Tumia hawa walimu kwa ajili ya hiyo kazi nzuri na tunawashukuruni sana walimu. Hii ni mwanzo tu ya safari ambayo tutaendelea kuifanya kwa pamoja. Na wakati fulani kama wakiitana training, kuna wale umeshika certificate imeandikwa trainer, si ndio? Umeshika certificate imeandikwa trainer. Na kuambia kweli kabisa kama Yesu asiporudi haraka haraka. Na wengine wenu naona tu mnaomba asirudi haraka haraka. Wengine hawajaoa, wengine watoto, wengine. So wako na maombi tofauti. Wacha Yesu atulie kwanza. Akitulia na akose kurudi haraka, kuna wengine wenu mtaitwa ili msaidie kwa ajili ya training. Na hiyo si itakuwa kitu ya maana. Kwa hivyo hii ni safari nzuri tu imeanza na tunashukuru Mungu sana.
On the other hand, the Teach to Transform team was led by George Kioko, who said the approach of teaching to transform drives in people to show mercy and compassion, and at the same time help them touch lives and bring them closer to Christ.
Our vision is to equip our partners with medical skills, farming God's way, and 5,000 plus. That is an economic empowerment program. And as a result of that, we enable our partners to be able to use the knowledge they will acquire during the trainings that we do for the expansion of the kingdom of God.
After the successful training with the help of the available healthcare centers in different places and the Ministry of Health, the trained personnel are now able to go out in their respective communities to attend to the residents and at the same time reach them with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Hiyo mafunzo tumechukua kwa siku 4 na nikirudi pale nyumbani nitafunza kwanza washiriki wa kanisa kila Jumapili. Nipate nafasi hata kama ya dakika 20 kwa wafunza washirika wa kanisa, na pia ninafanya kazi hospitalini na pia ndasaidia huko kwa hospitali kwa hii mafunzo, na pia ndasaidia jamii kwa ujumla nikifunza youth, ndafunza pia kina mama.
Faith Imani Mugo for Hope TV Newswatch.
And elsewhere, here are some of the highlights from the men's altar hosted by CITAM Buruburu, where the CITAM presiding Bishop Reverend Callisto Odede ministered on the theme Positioned for Exploits.
Patterned a military style and discipline that was used as an example of patriotic commitment in defending one's national soil. It is also used as an example of rigid training for the manner in which they would train their men, their young men, became known and became proverbial to the extent we speak of that is Spartan in terms of how rigid their training actually was. But it was a symbol also of courage and of overwhelming determination against all odds. The 300 Spartans, all of them died except one, so legend tells us. And the one who did not die went back home and he told the story of the battle. And one certain Simonides wrote an epitaph that they put out there on their graves. And the epitaph read this way: "Stranger, announce to the Spartans that here we lie, having fulfilled their orders." Some people translate it this way: "Go tell the Spartans, you who pass by, that in obedience to their laws we do lie here." Such people like Leonidas are considered heroes.
And that concludes our time here on Newswatch. Stay tuned for Friday Frenzy up next on Hope TV. My name is Tiffany Wamboy. Our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Muriithi. Do have a lovely weekend.